Welcome to this week's meeting of the Rockland Board of Selectmen, coming to you live on WRPS from the H. Bernard Monahan Memorial Room at Rockland Town Hall. On the agenda this week, we've got a Rockland Saves update, package store licenses, and license renewals. Now here's the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Ed Kimball.
Good evening. Welcome to tonight's meeting. Would you all please rise and join us for Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Ryan, if you would. Allegiance, flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening and welcome. Please be advised that this open meeting is being broadcast live and recorded by WRPS for playback on Comcast Channel 14 and Verizon Channel 31. It will also be available for online video-on-demand viewing at WRPSRockland.com within 24 hours of its conclusion. As our other recently recorded meeting and community events, please go to WRPSRockland.com for further information. With that, our first item is open forum. I don't believe we have anything, so we'll move on to our next item, number 2, minutes, open session minutes of November 7th, 2017.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Marcy, and then all the local businesses support us, so thank you very much for that. Able Home Performance is excited to have the last 6 weeks of our partnership upon us. The cold weather is here. That's really good for us to get people to act, to get people to have us out to their homes so we can do these energy assessments. Many of you may or may not have had an energy assessment. It's really a good opportunity to take advantage of the Mass Save program, where we can come out and install no-cost LED light bulbs in your home, water savings measures to help you save gas, and other ways that we can help you take advantage of rebates and discounts that you pay into the system for. We help you pull them out. I'd like you all to consider scheduling a no-cost Mass Save home energy assessment. If you haven't, if you have any friends or relatives that live in Rockland, please ask them to give us a call or go to our website, rocklandsaves.com. We have a 6-week push to help make all of our goals. We've met or exceeded a few of the targets. We have a few targets that we're still trying to catch up with and hit. We have 6 weeks to do it. The cold weather's here, so we could use your support. So far, within the past few weeks, we've been able to be at Touch a Truck, which was a great event. We've been to Tax Day, which was a great event for us, and I'm sure not a great event for the folks participating in it, but that's okay. We don't judge. We were at both parent-teacher nights, I think just behind here, and I'd like you to keep an eye on your water bill. We'll have little inserts in your water bill promoting this program, asking folks to take advantage of this. Really, our last hurrah looks like it's going to be the holiday stroll coming up on Saturday, which is a great event. We're looking forward to having a table right up front for folks to come by, say hi to us, and sign up. And I'd just like to stress, scheduling a no-cost assessment is very simple. We have a website, www.rocklandsaves.com. You can go there and sign up online, or you can call my office at 781-436-2639. You can speak with one of the men or the women in the office. It takes about 15 minutes to schedule. Right now, we're moving all of our appointments around, so if folks from Rockland call to schedule, we'll give you a date for other people so we can gather all the savings before the end of the year. We'll be actively doing that for 6 weeks, so if you want us and you'd like us out sooner rather than later, we'll make the efforts to do so, and we appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
If I could just echo something. I mentioned 2 weeks ago that my wife and I had an energy audit done, and actually on my way here this evening, I actually scheduled the installation of insulation, scheduled air sealing, and I just want to reiterate how easy it is, how cost effective and streamlined this whole process is. I can't believe with the rebates out there what I'll be paying to have my home like air sealed and to actually have insulation that's going to keep the heat and the energy within the house and not drifting off into a 20-degree air during the winter. So I can't emphasize how easy and how effective and how excited I am just to be a little warmer. So
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, next up on the unfinished business, item number 5, we have all alcohol package store license renewals, sale of nips, prohibition discussion. Mr. Chaga?
Mr. Chairman, as you had asked at the last meeting, we notified the package stores that are involved in the sale of nips here in the town of Rockland. I was probably the first one to bring this concern to the board ages ago, right after the spring cleanup that we do on Earth Day, maybe a week later or so, walking down the rail trail with my wife as I was showing her how beautiful the rail trail turned out. It was loaded with nips, and it had only been a week. I know since that time other people have come forward and talked about nips and the issue of litter, and we have checked into a number of things. I know Selectman Hall found a recent court case which was forwarded to our town council. We have checked with the ABCC. You are within your rights. Should you choose to prohibit the sale of nips, other towns have done things like plastic bags. I know there's one town in the Commonwealth that has banned the single-serving water bottle that each of you have in front of you in an effort to restrict plastic. I don't know that we want to go tonight, and it's the decision of the board, but we want to bring to the attention of the package stores that are selling the nips. I don't know if we want to go to the distance of a ban tonight or schedule a hearing to have a ban put in place, but rather to try and seek a common solution if one can be had. We know what the source is. We can follow the trail, and it's a very easy trail to follow from each one of the places. Any place there's a walking population and the nips are sold, it's fairly easy to follow throughout the town, and we're being inundated. There are a couple of solutions. I've talked to members of the board, but it's up to this board to make a determination what they want to do. You had asked that all the package stores be notified. We sent a letter out, and I think that they are well represented here this evening. So my concern is what, and maybe we can hear from some of them, Mr. Chairman, through you, what we can do about getting the customers' cooperation and or getting the store owners' cooperation for the cleanup or the reduction in litter caused by the sale of nips. I can tell you a number of restaurant owners have said that nips are a problem even in their own facilities because people bring nips in and pour them into their own drinks, trying to avoid the cost at a restaurant. So there are a number of things we can all talk about, but I think we're trying to reach some sort of solution. And with that, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I think the first thing we all have to do is recognize that, in fact, there's a problem with nips throughout town as far as litter and areas that are frequented, whether it be the rail trail or fields or things like that. And then secondly, we got to try to figure out if we can come up with some way to voluntarily address it versus coming up with some sort of outright ban or prohibiting the sale of nips directly. Our intent is not to hurt any business in town. In fact, we want to encourage business. But the issue seems to be that with at least this particular product that's being sold, that it seems to end up on the ground, a majority of the times, versus somebody taking it, maybe going home and consuming it. They seem to consume it in public or indiscreetly in public, and they dispose of it on public land, which brings us into a problem because we utilize a lot of volunteers throughout town to help keep the rail trail clean. There's an annual cleanup. I know there's some Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts in the back room, and they actually go out and help, as well as other organizations throughout town. And we've got to try to work together so we can come up with some sort of solution so that we can at least maybe identify the problem with your customers, because some customers are good customers and they handle their product and they dispose of it properly. Unfortunately, you have some other customers that don't, and that puts the onus back on us, and we're turning it around to put the onus back on you folks. And the only way we could get your attention, unfortunately, was during this renewal process. So we're trying to come up with some sort of ideas, and maybe if we hear from you folks, maybe you already know and can come up with something, talking to some other people that maybe in your industry, through your trade groups, maybe they've addressed it and they have a solution that we may or may not be aware of. But we have to try to do it in the effort of cooperation. I like to try to do it on a voluntary basis. That's me personally. I know we'll hear from other members of the board, but we have to try to figure out a way so that we can address the problem without inadvertently affecting your business outcome and people coming in to actually visit your stores. But at the same time, it's not fair to the town and fair to a lot of the volunteers out there who, as Alan mentioned, just after a week's time, after a major cleanup, that in fact there was a lot more product back on the ground again. And I'm not going to say it's entirely nips, but a large part of it is nips, and a large part of it is because they can be easily taken in a pocket. Instead of someone putting it back in their pocket, they toss it on the ground. And because they're small, they're consumed rather quickly versus, some other beverages that may take a little bit longer to consume as someone's walking the trail. And by that point, they either take them out with them or they find a place to put them in for trash, for refuse. So anybody from either Fast Lane Liquors, Luke's Liquors, Rockland Liquors, Station Liquors, or Union Street Liquors want to come up and address us?
Can I say something? I thought that, the best thing is the public relations thing would be to, when people come into the place now to buy nips, we can tell them, just, say, look it, not to be a pain in the behind, but, nips is a problem because of. So you ask the people, say, please take your nips off the property, take them home, please don't drink them outside, and maybe you could have a plastic barrel that comes in and out on a daily basis so that you don't leave it out there so it gets dumped with rubbish by the neighbors and any of that business, but just something outside that, might say nips on it or whatever. I mean, I'd be the last guy in the whole world to say I haven't used nips. I'd be the last guy in the world that I haven't say I used them in every which way that you can use them. All right, then, it's no lie about it, but the problem is we walk down the rail trail and we walk down behind toward Rockland Place and behind that fence and all that stuff, and it's, there's a tremendous amount of rubbish that says liquor store on it. And there's the other rubbish that says a lot on it, and I would say is Dunkin' Donuts. Because again, there's another one that's right to the rail trail, and they take a cup of coffee and they go walking the rail trail, they have a good time, look around on the ground. It's a lazy thing to do, but we've all done it. But the problem is it's getting to be an overwhelming mess that's routinely, and unfortunately, it just points right at you guys. And not, I mean, are you guilty for somebody who drinks a beer and throws it on the ground? No. But if it's an ongoing problem, what we'd like you to do is join with us to, maybe just clean around your particular stores or whatever. And then beyond that, the town is willing to take care of, part of the problem if we work together and seek a solution. Nobody wants to ban anybody. Nobody wants to drive any business out of town. We just want to get everybody's attention so that we can address the town as a problem. I mean, a problem with the town, so everybody may be more aware of what we're trying to accomplish.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. I echo Mr. Ryan, and I applaud him for asking people to sort of step up and do their part. But my concern is if we are relying on, I'm just speaking off the cuff here, but if we're relying on the voluntary participation of business owners to do this, we end up with the free rider problem, where we'll have 4 or 5 people gung-ho going at it, and then potentially one particular business that just kind of says, I'm not interested, which then, drives the other 4 businesses to say, well, if they're not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. So I can say personally, I have concern if that is the only solution that we're posing here. I think we need to explore other solutions, because by just relying on maintenance obligations with no enforcement mechanism on the town side to ensure that those maintenance obligations are actually fulfilled, I'm afraid we're going to end up with a free rider problem.
Anybody else?
Well,
Before we
yeah.
Because we're going to be close to having a
Yep,
tax
sure.
hearing in another minute.
So just on that, I think if they aren't coming to the table and being, quote unquote, a better neighbor and cleaning up these areas, then, the fact that we can next year at licensing time, we do have that ability at that point. A lot of this came too because we have Reimagine Rockland going on, which is trying to redo the downtown and bring new businesses to the downtown. A couple volunteers have gone out there on a daily basis, a couple times a week, and they've cleaned it up. And the feedback that we're getting from them is that the stuff that they're constantly picking up in the areas around the liquor stores is the nip containers. I went up after one of our last meetings, and Mike and I went across the street to the Rockland Bar and Grill, and just walking through the parking lot, I saw three nip containers between myself, my car, and the sidewalk. And I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. Obviously, the fault is on the consumer, the person that ordered it. But I think the idea, the point that Larry's making is what can we do as a community? And you guys are valued members of the community. What can we do as a community together to fix this problem? Is there anything we can do?
I'll hold that thought because unfortunately we have to
No,
go to
sorry.
a posted hearing for 7:20. Under new business, we have a tax classification hearing, so if you could take that food for thought and we'll drop back after this hearing.
Do we want to okay the licenses?
We can, I imagine the board's going to okay the licenses anyways. Mr. Chairman, if I might, through you, can I make a suggestion? And certainly, as long as we're posted, we can delay the tax hearing for a couple of minutes. But might I suggest that the store owners meet with a member or two of the board and see if we can't, I'd be happy to also meet, but see if we can't arrive at some sort of agreement, whether it's funding a cleanup cruise or donation towards cleanups, or them putting people on their hourly, work an extra hour and walk up and down the trail, work an extra hour, walk around the parking lots or the downtown or where the problems exist. But I'd be happy to report back to the board at some point and have a meeting with the owners again.
Mr. Chairman, just really quickly, that was my thought throughout this whole thing. Obviously, I mean, like a lot of options have been thrown on the table already tonight. But if everyone would be amenable, if we could create a type of working group to have this dialogue and hopefully like a partnership going forward, that was going to be my thought and recommendation too. So I like
Great
that
minds
idea.
think alike.
Well, do we have time to hear from any of them
We do.
before the tax?
Yeah, we can.
Do you guys, anybody want to come up and speak and just give us your thoughts? Or what other
You can hold on
other
from the
businesses
hearing.
are doing? Come on.
So,
Tell everybody who you are.
I'm Dave Luke from Luke's Liquors. Good to meet you. So we're looking for a solution for littering. Couple of good ideas already were said, and we were already talking about possibly adding another fee to our license to help fund trash cans cleanups as one idea. Somebody told me about a community service that the high school students have to do. That could be part of a cleanup. We could use the fees that we would pay to put out trash cans and signs that remind people they shouldn't litter, because really it's the people.
The thing with the rubbish barrels is if you leave them out there,
Then they
people are
get
gonna
dumped
fill
over.
them, dump other stuff in them, so there have to be something,
So we,
some sort
yeah.
of control just for your own benefit, so it doesn't become,
Right.
you see an empty trash can anywhere, it's usually overfilled.
Yeah, we can put trash cans in front of our stores. That would help a little bit, but they're going to walk and,
Yeah, right.
it's hard to change somebody who's already littering to not litter. So,
Well, if there was excuse me, Mr. Chairman, but if we had if we increased the fee to the license, we would put a town person, maybe a couple hours a week that would do
Yeah,
it.
to help fund it.
Because once you go outside the scope of anybody's property here, their liability ends. So you can't send an employee down to the rail trail, because if he does anything down there, then he's not on their property, he doesn't come under their insurance umbrella maybe. You know how technical that type of stuff could be, so.
Right.
So maybe if we increase the license fee and use that money directly to hire somebody that would, either from the park or highway or whatever, a couple hours a week to go down and up, down and up.
I'm sure
I mean,
there's
quite a few solutions we can come up with.
I like that idea. I would just because of my legal background in municipal fees, in use fees and regulatory fees, there's a whole legal structure that we would probably want just the town council to take a peek at before that's something.
Oh, yeah,
we
I'm
would
sure
pursue.
there's, everything has to be ironed out, but
Mr. Ryan, last week we discussed the deposit, if they brought back the receipt from their own store.
yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
too bad we can't have an own deposit in Rockland, but we can't allow that fee, but there may be a deal if you sell 10 nips, a sleeve of nips, and the guy hangs on to his slip, comes back the next week and brings the empties with him, he gets $1 off or something. However, you can work it, if nips are $1, charge $1.10, and if they bring the slip back, I mean, I'd love to just say, we'll pay you a nickel for everyone you bring back.
But you'd end up,
But you end up
the
with guys
problem
coming
is
from,
you
yeah.
can't have nips from other places,
Yeah,
but if
right.
they brought a
Right, that's
receipt
the
back
problem.
from,
Yeah.
if they brought a receipt back from your own store, saying, I bought it here, here are my 10 nips, I don't know.
If they brought a slip back and brought 20 nips, who cares? So
Right.
give them 20 cents back. You know, you're 20 nips
We'll
equals $1. You know, so 1,000 nips is 5% of that is short money, really.
I mean, if you talk about littering, I mean, that's why the bottle bill was introduced years ago.
Right.
It doesn't stop at 100%, but it does slow it down, and it does create a fund where,
But you can't, the problem is obviously for the Rockland owners, they can't be taking nips from other people. That's why we thought if they
Right.
kept their own receipt from that store, I'm sure you have frequent customers. I've been there once or twice myself.
well, part of
You
the
have?
logic
I didn't
question
see
is, what's the volume of business of
Right.
NIPS combined between all 5 licensees
Right.
tonight? I don't know what that value is, but, and then is it worth that effort
Yes.
at the end of the day? I can't answer that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the
But-
margin is, I don't know,
Yeah.
what also, is that a leader to bring people into the store, is there specials, I don't know. But those are things to consider as well, because short of outright banning it, I mean, you can't change someone's habits. All we can do is put something in place to circumvent their habit. And if that means we have to charge a fee, or we have to do something so we can take care of the people who aren't good stewards.
I
So,
think we can solve this, though. This is very solvable.
I do
The
too,
only-
I do too. It's just we had to bring it to everyone's attention
Right.
so that we can all work together. We want you guys here. Everybody pays taxes and everybody does a lot of good business in Rockland, and we want to keep it that way. But we just want to make sure that, when we're walking down the street, the first thing that you meet is a nip can, a beer can, or a coffee cup. And everybody who sells them has to just be aware that, that we're part of the problem and we can be part of the solution also. But other than that,
anybody else from your group have any ideas? Anybody?
I had a thing, my son's in Rockland High School, I know every single kid in Rockland High needs to do 25 hours of community service. Has he done anything yet? No. But this would be a great little, if they were supervised on a Saturday afternoon and, a teacher like took them to walk the trail or something and pick up nips, and they 3 hours off their community, and there's a whole school that has to do it. And if they did it throughout the year, that would also help, and you're not paying someone, these kids have to do community service.
well, maybe we should stick them on Donald Kahn and the
Give them a
Open
pair of
Space
gloves
Committee that,
and
he does a
send
great
them
job
out.
with the cleanup every year.
On our annual cleanups, we do sign off on community service.
So there you go, so.
Both for Rockland High and Holy Family kids have community service obligations.
Actually, it
as
could be a
well.
nice project for kids. Teach them to respect their town.
They might think twice about littering if they have to pick it up. Now,
And again, just,
the next
when people come in, just say, look, we got a problem with this. Please don't make the problem worse for us. If they all like you, they all do business with them. We all know the people that are doing it because they come all the time, because most of them are walking there. That's what we do, what people do when they, so, we're all for it.
If I can, Mr. Chairman, one of the things, just going back to the thought about like increasing the fees for the license, like in the working group idea, one of the first questions that comes to mind, which I don't think we'll be able to answer tonight, is one, like I'm not even sure, Ms. Hull, if we can actually increase the fees statutorily, and or if that would require any type of home rule or any type of ABCC a process or anything else. But also, like, if we were to increase a licensing fee, we wouldn't want. Number one, we wouldn't want to make that fee like unsustainable for a business. But at the same time, we would want the fee to be able to fund something on our side that would be worthwhile to actually hire a person or to increase hours or whatever we come up with. And again, like if you folks are amenable, I think a working group, we could work through these ideas, and maybe there's another idea that we haven't even talked about this evening that we could come up with to figure this out. Because I mean, like all of us, as everyone has mentioned, we want to be partners. We value and frequent your businesses, and we want you to be sustainable and successful as well. So.
If the chair would so allow, I'd like to make a motion that we establish a working group, 2 members of the Board of Selectmen and various representatives from the 5 licensees here.
I'll second.
All those in favor? So that's a vote.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve their licenses.
Second.
Will you notify us by letter about that, or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll be around to
I get it.
talk to everybody too.
Okay.
You know, so you get to know us, our faces when we walk by and stuff. You know, we can all do it. It'll work. It's going to be simple enough. We just have to be
Does that work?
persistent,
That work?
right? A little persistent, that's all.
Okay, we had a motion and a second for renewal of the licenses. Do we want to read the licenses off, Ellen?
Fast Lane Liquors at Hingham Street, Luke's Liquors, 167 Market Street, Rockland Liquors, 347 Market Street, Station Liquors, 21 East Water Street, and the Union Street Package Store at 328 Union Street.
You miss anybody?
There's 5 of them.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous vote.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
tonight.
Thank
Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it, guys, yeah.
Thank you.
No, we will, but, you know, we just, sometimes you gotta just throw it out there and say, look, we gotta do something. Best thing, then everybody thinks about it. By the time we got here, we got the solutions in hand.
Thank you.
That's the way it should be. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to skip item number 6 for now, and we're going to go into new business so we can have a 7:20 PM
Motion
tax
to,
classification
open the
hearing.
tax classification hearing?
Thank you, guys.
You
You
as well.
too.
Second.
Good luck tomorrow night.
We had a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
A motion to open
Yes.
by,
Larry, second by Deidre. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
you have a majority of your board here? No, okay.
Deb, would you like to come up? Dennis?
And this is our,
Can you come by and see me with them tomorrow?
They don't need them. This is, you know,
I just want to put these, I just want to,
we just do one.
Before us tonight, Dennis Robson, Chairman of the Board of Assessors, and Deb Krupchik, who is the Assessor Appraiser for the town of Rockland. We have to do this every single year, Mr. Chairman, as we set the tax rate. And I believe most of the information has been in your books and emailed to you. And we will go
you
from
can see
there.
me whenever you want.
Why is everyone looking at me?
So this is something we do every year. This is the annual classification hearing, and we're here to decide if we want to stick with the factor of 1, the almost 20%. So overall, from last year, the town value is up approximately 4.6%. And nice little graph on page 2, pie chart.
Got a question.
Okay, sure.
One of the reasons that we've always had a single rate is because of the percentage of business versus housing. And the last, say 10 years, has that percentage changed very much? Are we increasing business or increasing housing?
I think that the percentage
the
seems
same.
to be pretty strong in favor of more housing than commercial.
Okay.
What's helping us this year is that we had 2 buildings destroyed, and they both decided to rebuild. So the values are gonna be up.
Right.
Which could, in turn, throw the value off a little bit. But realistically, housing is rising more than commercial, the commercial and industrial.
One of the first questions I asked as a brand-new town administrator 9.5 years ago was, what was the ratio? What was the balance? The ideal balance in any of the government courses and the training that I've had always says you want to strive for a 75-25 at a minimum. Business space of 25%, residential 75, and that's always the target. The question is, do you have the land to develop? Rockland has stayed approximately 80-20 for the last 10 years.
Well, one of our major issues is that most of our main thoroughfares through town are a lot of residential people on those.
Right.
It's just not, you know, don't drive down 123 through Rockland on 139 and see businesses everywhere. You see residences everywhere. So that we were limited, which is where we could put our industrial, you know, the smartest thing we did was to rezone the airbase. So that someday,
We'll probably see a difference at that point.
but someday, yeah, someday when that's all built out,
Yeah.
15, 20 years from now, then you can change the tax rate because you're going to have enough business to support it. But right now, having the single tax rate brings business to this town because if you go to Weymouth, their tax rate's more than Rockland.
Yep.
You know, and if they're going to pay taxes, might look at that, where that line is, and step across onto this side.
Even with all the construction of the schools and the road bonds that we've done and the new senior center that we've done here in Rockland, we are still in the bottom third in Plymouth County for average single-family tax bill. So we've been frugal even in our projects as far as getting them done. We used to be third from the bottom, but we're still in the bottom third. And I expect that there'll be 1 or 2 of those communities in that bottom third that will then surpass us because they have since built schools or put school projects on their budget. So Rockland, by all accounts, is still a relatively a bargain for buying housing and our tax rates, our tax bill by comparison to other surrounding communities. We're in the southern Boston market, so we have to compare ourselves to other southern Boston communities, and in that comparison, we fare fairly well.
I'll talk more about it when I get to the average single family, but, you know, Rockland is selling very, very well. I mean, Rockland's assessed values are going up, the sales prices are going up. I mean, and that's what we do. We look at sales prices, and the assessed values have to go up in accordance with sales.
I was talking to Dan DiRenzo today, a realtor, on another unrelated issue, and we talked about that today, about, you know, how long does it take a house to be sold in Rockland? And Miss Hurry, a couple houses up the street from me, up the street from me, passed away recently, and they put a house up for sale, and it's gone, 2 weeks. Not even that.
Yeah,
Just gone.
I went on an inspection in one of the condo developments, and I said, how long was it on the market? And they said 4 days. And I was like,
Yeah.
Condos are very hot here, very hot.
I'm gonna, can I make a motion then that we not adopt the residential exemption for fiscal 2018? Oh, I'm sorry, sorry, getting ahead of myself.
That's right, I was just going to give you a little presentation about.
You can, but it's.
about-
This is helpful. I mean, I think for people at home too to hear it
Yes.
as well.
Especially with some of the board members who haven't had it
Right,
before.
right.
It, you know, to know what we do and what's going on, so that,
So if you look at page 3, that's how we figure out the maximum allowable levy. We start with the 2017 levy limit, and I want to note that new growth was certified at $307,286. And the maximum allowable levy for this year was $36,116,200. Our estimated tax levy is $36,086,644.24, which gives us the excess levy capacity of $29,550.76. So on page 4, we come to the uniform tax rate calculation, and in here, you see that our projected tax rate is going to be, based on a uniform tax rate calculation, is going to be 1822, and that's, we arrive at that by taking the total tax levy divided by the value of the town, and there's your $18.22.
And that's 26 cents less than last year.
Yep, sure is. Now, values are up because we have to analyze sales every year. And there was 125 arm's length sale this year, and we stratify them, we analyze them, and we adjust values in accordance with the DOR guidelines. So the average single-family dwelling went up from fiscal 17 to fiscal 18, went from 283,600 to 298,661, which is, an increase of 5.3%. The average tax bill is going to go up 3.8%. So because, you go up 2.5% plus new growth. So even if the tax rate comes down, you still have that much too going on. So overall, residential went up 5%. Commercial, CIP, commercial, industrial, and personal property overall 2%.
Yeah, but can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
In terms of like arriving at the value, like you mentioned, like it's computed based on sales and the values at the sales. How, like we've been hearing a lot about bidding wars and everything else. Does that factor, or does it go based on the assessed value?
It goes, we have to bring our
When the house
sales,
is appraised.
we have to bring our assessed values up in accordance with the sales.
Okay.
But for fiscal 18, we use calendar year 16, because the
okay, yep.
tax date is 1/1/17, so we're always a
Yep.
little bit behind. So I think values went up like 4% last year, another 5% this year,
Yep.
probably another at least 5% next
Yep.
year. I mean, I'm seeing houses selling easy 100,000 over assessed value at times, and it's like,
Okay.
you shake your head because we have to bring them up in accordance with that at some point.
Okay.
But, I remember the day when we had just the opposite. It's good news that our biggest asset is increasing in value.
Oh, could you briefly just touch on what new growth is, or what makes up new growth, so people know? We talk about new growth, but we say, is it how many houses, how many businesses?
All right, new house,
Could I piggyback on that too, and add a second part to that question? What are your projections for new growth for next year?
thank
knew I
you,
was gonna
thank
ask
you,
it.
thank you.
You knew it, so.
The same next year. I would guess approximately the same for next year, because I don't see anything in the pipeline next year that's really, we have the two big buildings, the two big commercial industrial buildings on Weymouth Street that we're still going to be picking up some new growth from them next year. We have the new dealership out on Hingham Street. But other than that, I don't know if there's
And
anything big.
it also includes, if
Okay,
somebody
good new
does
growth, go ahead.
a home improvement, he had a second floor on.
Yeah.
That's an improvement. Yes, it doesn't seem like much, but they all add up. And just about everybody in town at one time or another is doing some kind of building or repair or whatever. So when you start to do that, then you start to increase the value, because we also rate your home on the value of the condition of your home.
Right.
So your house is depreciating, so of course you go and spend money on it. Well, you get a building permit.
Yep.
It all comes into play when you start to go, because, you want to have a fair thing, so as soon as you're done with the construction, Debbie has to come in, she'll reevaluate your home, and, and then it's there. So that comes into play.
So we have new construction, we have building permits, and we have land splits. So if you have a big parcel of land that's going to split for, you have a 15-acre parcel, we probably don't have any, but it's going to become 10 buildable lots, that's, we can,
Development.
the value of the changes we can take for new growth in that. Trying to think. Oh, in that same vein, cyclical reinspection. Sometimes on cyclical reinspections, we may find something that we haven't had prior. Every once in a while, you find a little tiny addition maybe that didn't have a permit, or you, maybe, you know, some things that didn't go through the permit process. I'm sure some people just didn't realize that they needed it. We just finished the 6-year, well, we did the cyclical inspection over a 6-year period. We're supposed to try to get in every house in town within a 10-year period. And we did it over 6 years. We finished this fall. And did our best. You know, you estimate if you don't get in. I tell people, you know, you really should let us in because it can go both ways. You know, maybe your house is, you know, in fair to poor condition, and we have you at average condition. So, but you know, I understand it's people's right. They can let us in or not let us in. But if they decide to appeal the valuation, they generally have to let us in because the appellate tax board will make that a condition of their appeal in order to be seen at the appellate tax board.
But on occasion, you have it, somebody, we've got them evaluated to have a room over their garage. Well, from the outside of the house, it looks like there's a room over the garage. They never let anybody in, so the company that we hire to go through and do cyclical, said, oh, there's a room over the garage. Well, next thing you know, they're saying, oh, I don't have a room over my garage, but they don't want to let you in.
Sometimes
It's like, okay, you can't have, you know.
yeah,
you gotta
sometimes
have
people have a
some-
facade, you know, and we don't, and you know, you don't
Just a
realize that.
window,
You have to
yeah.
estimate the best you can. But I was going to go back on to the cyclical. I was going to say, so we finished the cyclical in 6 years. So we'll take a year off next year because next year is our revaluation year. And so we're still in the 3-year cycle for reval, but after next year, 2019, we'll be on a 5-year cycle, so we won't have revaluation for 5 more years after that. But we're going to try to maybe do it over 10 years next time, so it won't be, you know, it's a little less costly if we can try to budget over 10 years. So, and then we give you on the next couple of pages, we give you the effects of a split rate demonstrated, and you know, we show you the maximum shift that could happen, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, and 20, and it takes quite a lot. I mean, no one would even think of doing a 20% split at the beginning. But in order to save the residential taxpayer 5%, you'd have to charge your commercial taxpayer 20% more. So it so with our 80-20 allocation, you know, it's a hard thing to be able to get any real savings for the residential class. You'd have to really hit the commercial class. So the Board of Assessors did vote to recommend, you know, staying with uniform tax rate as usual, no residential exemption, and no small commercial exemption, which the small commercial exemption is kind of like a split rate within the commercial class. So I gave you this, Ed, and I think I gave all the selectmen it, so you can kind of, you can all have it, yeah.
I just wanted to point out, I know myself about 3 years ago, we
Yep.
had a discussion regarding going with a split rate.
Yep.
And at the time, Rockland was on the cusp of a split rate. And the discussion about the split rate at that time wasn't so much as to separate from a single rate, but to establish a split rate. So in the future, if we chose to, we'd already have the mechanism in place so we could go through and split the rate.
Right.
And back then, the mindset on it was based on debt exclusions or overrides coming before the residents of the town. Those would be the voting body who would actually make those decisions, because unfortunately, whether we have a single rate or a split rate, the businesses, unless they own property in town, residential, and live in town as resident, they don't vote and they don't get to determine whether or not we're going to have a debt exclusion, or it's a new school,
Yes.
or if it was a senior center or the roads project. Any of those incremental, we'll say increases, they really don't have a say in that. So that's what was the basis way back when I started to investigate whether Rockland was ready for a split rate or not. And at that time, I believe it was determined that by the vote of the board that we stayed with the single rate. And we haven't had, based on the question you answered for Mr. Laughlin, there hasn't been much change upward to show any real net increase in the commercial side. I mean, the discussion was the incremental increase for a commercial person or a commercial property owner, I should say, versus a residential property owner. There wasn't a lot of give and take where it would make it worthwhile at that time. And we've been fortunate that the townspeople have supported our endeavors with going through with debt exclusions and things like that. I mean, I know that a lot of people in town, a lot of different departments all work well together. They work hard to make sure that they're good stewards for the town. And like any town, we're trying to increase our services and still keep the tax rate lower so it's affordable, and that people who've had children in the town, you know, they're able to stay in town, where in some communities they don't have that option. I know my son had just bought a house last year, and he's able to stay in town. So now he becomes a taxpayer as well. But you go into some of these more affluent towns around us, whether that be Norwell and Hingham, unfortunately, their youth, their children, are being priced out of being able to stay in their hometown. And, you know, so I think that's a benefit of having the single rate, personally, right now, is it allows us, if we have children, or if we have family, or we have sisters, brothers, parents and things, or in-laws, whatever, that actually relocate to Rockland or move to Rockland, it gives them at least an opportunity to be close to family and still have, let's say, to be affordable. I mean, it's like anything. I know when my parents first bought here in '69, it's because my mother's brother had bought here in '67. So it's, you know, it's just kind of, you know, there's always some reason why people are drawn to the area. And, you know, part of it's affordable, part of it's proximity to Boston, part of it's what service we offer, and part of it's, you know, like anything, the schools, and whether it's the library or the roads or senior centers, all what the town can offer.
And I also want to say that I think that voting those debt exclusions or overrides or whatnot have helped that your sales prices too. You know, better roads, better schools, better, you know, senior center.
Well, I
Those
think
are
you're absolutely right, because those are the things that when people are ready to sell their home, and the next generation would come in to purchase that home, those are the attributes they're looking for in the community, so that they can, you know, raise a family or potentially start a family here. And those are things we all, you know, I mean, when you're young, a lot of times you don't look at that, but you take a look at some of the metropolitan areas, and the cost of rents are crazy, and then the cost of living in the cities are crazy. And workforce housing, you know, unfortunately has become an issue, I mean, in the city. And I know, you know, we've all hedged our bets with Union Point, and we're all hoping that's going to take off in time, and that's a long-term plan, hopefully, and hopefully that's going to put the town in a better position, you know, 5, 10, 15 years out, and then into perpetuity, you know, if it's built out the way that everyone envisions. And, you know, so we're trying to do what we can, and whether that's, you know, whether it's making, you know, there's been a lot of changes in town that have also helped save money for the town, whether that's the solar fields. You know, we have host community agreements in place for medical marijuana, although we haven't had any operating yet. Those things are going to help pay into making the town, you know, to have more services. So there's a lot of things we're doing in town government as well. I know from your end, you count it, you assess it, you value it, and then, you know, it's pretty much, I don't want to say
I
it's...
appreciate it though, too.
And we appreciate what you do as well, but...
No, I appreciate
get that, but it was a
the
pun,
betterments.
but
That's
yeah.
what- Yeah, pun, yeah.
But it's, what
You
people...
appreciate everybody's property, don't
It's
you?
an assessor joke.
But the idea is,
A little slower.
Selectmen not that sharp.
the idea behind it is so that the community can function and have the services. I mean, so it's an important part of it that we have to do each year.
The other reason that I would vote for this, had voted for the single rate was, when I look at the end of Union there, and having that now rezoned to commercial. You don't want to scare people away and say, okay, I mean, because you look at that split rate that Weymouth has for that property, it makes our property that much more desirable for anybody the road's already there. It's not like you got to go anywhere for it. So, you know, somebody's going to come in and take that property and something's going to happen with it. You know, and it may not take the 15 years. Somebody's going to come along and say, hey, this is an ideal place. It's not far from Boston. I have 2 accesses to 2 major roads.
Train.
No, I think we're in a good position, and I think the town they've done well as being stewards for the town to make sure that they're not spending recklessly. We try to do more things with our own resources. That's evidenced by just, if you look out, I don't know if anyone had an opportunity to look out at the Town Hall Plaza. I mean, that was with incorporation of the Highway Department, the Park Department, you know, utilizing those departments so we can keep the costs down, but then creating a great public space for the community. So those are things we're trying to do. And there's a lot of things happening in town where we rely on a lot of volunteers because we're trying to make sure that we can afford things and do things. So.
And on that vein, I want to thank the finance team. You know, Alan, definitely Eric, Judy. I think we all work very well together. You know, we have team meeting twice a year to make sure that the preliminary and the actual billing goes smoothly. And definitely, you know, everyone, my staff, everyone that's helped put all these together, because I know we do work hard to make sure that everything is done as accurately as possible, especially when we're dealing with as many numbers as possible.
Thank you very much. Done a great job. Everybody's doing a great job.
So we have.
Make a motion to close the hearing?
Second.
No, if they vote.
We have to vote
Have to
before.
vote after the meeting closed. You can close after the hearing, right?
No.
Close the hearing first, right?
Close the hearing.
Close the hearing, then we vote. Yeah, that's why you yelled at me for that.
Okay, that's why I need you.
So there you go.
Now that you've heard all the presentations, you've got 3 votes in front of you. You've got the residential exemption.
Yeah.
So we closed, officially closed?
Well, we have to vote to close the meeting. So we had a
First and a second.
and we had a first and second. All those in favor of closing the meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now I'll make a motion not to adopt a residential exemption for the fiscal year 2018.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
That's a unanimous
All
vote.
right, now I'm going to make a motion to adopt a residential factor of 1, the single tax rate for fiscal year 2018.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And one more, we're going to make a motion not to adopt a small commercial exemption for fiscal year 2018.
Second.
All those in
Oh,
favor?
you're really screwing me
Sorry.
up now.
Keep turning your toes, Buzz, right?
Yeah, you know. He's up for election next year.
Wow.
Just raise your taxes, folks.
And again, I want to tell you, the LA5 excess levy capacity is 29,555.76, and I have the I have 2 copies of the LA5 for your hard copy. You can just
Can
sign.
you please sign those in open session?
Where am I signing?
I just signed right
On
under
the
where I
bottom?
I don't know what it says, so
what it's
Right
like.
there?
Yeah, there you go.
Right there. They want these hard copy in addition to signing on the gateway now, so, before they approve the tax rate.
I have to say, during the lull here, that there were a couple of questions that I asked when I first came in, and one of them was, what is the ratio on the commercial, industrial, and residential? Because it says a lot about a community, where you're at, where you're going, what are your resources. I can remember doing comparisons on what are our tax levies, which we've done annually ever since by comparison. We went out, we wanted to know what we were in comparison to the surrounding communities. We've done studies on departments and our pay scales with different departments and unions, as well as our employees, and whether it's the teachers or not. But you're always looking for that area where, you know, sometimes they say, you know, you don't want to be the weeble who pops up, but you're looking for some sort of anomaly somewhere. And You know, even some people like to blame the schools. I know they're the biggest part of our budget, but the school teachers' salaries are well within the norm for the area. I mean, when I first got here, somebody wants to, you know, there's always an element that wants to throw a bomb at the schools. When we looked at where they weren't out of whack as far as the average teacher salary for the town of Rockland. We did have some departments, and we've worked with them and reined in a couple, but you know, at first, when you get here, you have to do all of those comparisons. Where are we? And Rockland was substantially lower in its tax bills than some of the surrounding communities, and certainly third lowest in Plymouth County. We have, of course, gone up because of the things we have adopted here. We did an override, we've done some debt exclusions, and we're still in the bottom third average single-family tax bill. But you can see that those improvements coincide with the value of the houses. As people go to sell their prime asset, it's bringing a greater return. So, Deb, I want to thank you, and you're right, I think we have an excellent team. I want to thank you and Dennis, you know, for your continued cooperation with me and the rest of the departments as we move forward, trying to get these bills done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah,
You too.
happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Thanks,
Okay,
Deb.
back to unfinished business, item number 6, license renewals. Mr. Chalker, license renewals, unfinished business number 6. I believe the first 5 we addressed in our item number 5.
You did. That was on a motion from Mr. Ryan and Mr. Mullen. So I assume the rest will follow the same pattern. All alcohol club license, VFW 22 Church Street, Eagles Club 29 Park Street, and the Columbia Social Club on Webster Street.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All alcohol common victual license, the 99 Restaurant on Accord Park, Someplace Cafe on Union Street, Game Time Sports Bar and Grill on Center Street, Rockland Bar and Grill on Union Street, Bella's Italian Restaurant on Hingham Street, TK O'Shea's on Hingham Street, Players Sports Bar and Grill on VFW, Rockland Golf Course on Plain Street, and Maneras, I hope I'm saying that right, Bar and Steak House / Food Party on Union Street.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor? It's a vote.
Wine and malt common victual license, Butterfield's Restaurant on Market Street, Mike's Pizzeria on Union Street, Themis Pizza on Market Street.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor? It's unanimous vote again. Thank you.
Wine and malt package, license 7-Eleven on Market Street, Sam's Food Mart on VFW, and the 7-Eleven also on Market Street. They are 92 and 474 Market Streets.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor? It's unanimous
All
vote again.
alcohol in holder license, the Doubletree by Hilton on Hingham Street.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous vote.
Common victual license, Doubletree by Hilton on Hingham Street, 99 Restaurant on Accord, Game Time Sports Bar on Center Street, Rockland Bar and Grill on Union Street, Bella's Italian Restaurant on Hingham Street, Oriental Express on West Water Street, Mike's Pizzeria on Union Street, the 7-Eleven on Market Street, Magoo's on VFW, and Maneras Bar and Steakhouse Food Party on Union Street.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor? It's unanimous vote. Thank you.
Automatic Amusement, the Rockland Bar and Grill on Union Street, Game Time Sports Bar and Grill on Center Street.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous vote. Thank you.
Entertainment license, Doubletree on Hilton Street, Doubletree by Hilton on Hingham Street, 99 Restaurant at Accord Park, Game Time Sports Bar and Grill, Center Ave, Bella's Italian Restaurant on Hingham Street, Mike's Pizzeria on Union Street, Maneras Bar and Steak House / Food Party on Union Street.
Motion to
Motion to
approve.
approve? Sorry. She was interfering.
Deirdre, would you whack that?
No, she was
I was
just
distracting him, I'm
distracting
sorry.
me, yeah. Second.
Mr. Ryan?
In favor?
That is going to read Mr. Ryan, Mr. Mullen.
There you go.
Inholders license, Doubletree on Hilton.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous vote. Thank you.
Class 1 license Realty Systems of Arizona, Hillcrest on Beach Street.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Class 2 Advanced Transmission on Plain Street, Supreme Muffler and Brake on VFW, Dennis Auto Body on North Ave, Advanced Auto Center on VFW, and Southern Auto Sales on VFW.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I'd just like to add, subject to all obligations have been met with the Class 2s, okay?
I'll add that to my motions.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor? So unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along to item number 10, Town Administrator's Report and Correspondence. Mr. Chalker.
I don't think there's a whole lot in your books on my reports this week. We'll update you. The hearing for Reed's Pond, I was unable to attend. I was at a conference. I know that Selectman Hall was here. However, for whatever reason, it was not on the posted agenda, so it has been delayed until Tuesday, but we do not anticipate any trouble. Their engineers have looked at it, so we should get approval, then we can work with the Department of
What time is that meeting on
Transportation.
Tuesday? 7?
7 o'clock.
Yeah, right?
Right here. I will be at that one. And, you know, we've been assured that everything's kosher and we should be able to just get the approval, then we can talk to Department of Transportation about pulling the boards. Winter parking ban will begin after the stroll on December 1st. That's an all-night parking ban on all streets after 1 p.m. Or 2 p.m., I'm not quite sure. We'll make sure that it's posted on the sign out front. And that will go into effect from December 1st. Typically, the police give courtesy tickets for about a week or 10 days. And certainly, if there is a snowstorm, it does not matter what time of day. You need to be off the roads if there's going to be plowing involved with the town. But the all-night parking ban is in effect beginning December 1st and going through April 1st. I know there was some talk about continuing that parking ban permanently on Union Street. I don't know what the will.
That might be a good idea. We'll have to visit that when, in the springtime.
Yeah, we have time.
Because of
yeah.
business parking, there's people go in there at 8 o'clock at night and park. You know, they could be parked around the back of their building, they're parking on the street, taking up a space all night. It'll be something, I talked to the chief of police about it a little earlier today, and he's sort of for it because we need more parking in the center of town.
It has been a problem with some of the businesses where residents are coming home at 4 o'clock. They live upstairs and taking the on-street parking away from some of the businesses rather than going to behind their own building. It's sometimes a little more convenient. But then they fall asleep and you've got businesses that aren't able to serve their clientele. So it may be something the board will want to look at to restrict all-night parking permanently from, say, Union Square through North Ave. And we would have to post the appropriate signs. I think we should revisit that, Mr. Ryan, if,
In the spring.
well prior to the end of the ban, though. The stroll, a reminder to everybody, Pam Murphy had wanted to be here tonight, but she could not. I'm sure she's out making last-minute arrangements for the stroll, but that is from 4 to 7 here on Union Street. I know it's one of the highlights of the year. We always enjoy coming over. Street lights, we had a conference call with the state. We've finally received the approval not only for Rockland, but I was able to arrange a conference call with the 6 other communities that will be in the pool for the purchasing of our street lights, and that is pushed that a little further along so that we now only need DPU approval. Once we have DPU approval, they'll be able to come in and do the new transition streetlights. We expect that the payout will be, I believe, about 2.5 years, and the transition to better, brighter lights actually pay for themselves in savings. I certainly want to do a shout out to the highway department, all the guys there, and certainly Dave Taylor, who designed the side of the north side of Town Hall, that grassy area that's always kind of been a waste, to make it a useful, what is called a pocket park. I think it will see a lot of use from townspeople, and it will be probably incorporated into a number of our projects, including the farmers market that we've been doing.
open space along the
know?
40-yard district. It's one of the things that is part of the process. So, there's a feather in the cap, if you will.
Yeah, but it's,
Right away, where we provide open space rather than, non-open space, if you will, I guess.
but while it was sitting there, it was not of real use, and the way David set it up, it makes it a nice place to maybe sit, have a sandwich, or meditate, for those of you who are into meditation. We'll probably look out and get some yoga classes going early later on. But I think it came out beautiful, and a little bit outside the norm for the highway department and the guys. I think they really enjoyed having the opportunity of working with Dave Taylor, who certainly knew what he was doing as he was putting in these walls and creating the park. It came out beautiful, and I can't say enough about his design, his efforts, and certainly the work of the highway guys. They did a great job. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I wish you and yours and everyone in the viewing audience happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, thank you. Selectmen's comments. Comments and opinions expressed by individual members do not necessarily reflect the views of all the Board of Selectmen and are the opinions and comments of only the individual member. With that, Mr. Laughlin.
I have no comments tonight.
Ms. Hall?
I have a few. I just wanted to reiterate my comments from last meeting in regards to volunteers for the teen center. I'd really love to see some people step up and either volunteer to help with supervision and or serve on the board, the advisory board there. We definitely need some new blood there. People are, it's a small crew, and it looks like they're ready to move on to other things, so I want to make sure that is backfilled with some quality people. I want to mention that the next meeting, we're going to have a presentation from Union Point on their stormwater plan. So for those people who were concerned about flooding from the base, I've been in contact with sort of what I would like to see, at least technology-wise, in regards to that stormwater plan, so that it's pretty heavy on detail, but understandable and comprehensible by residents. So I'm happy and excited about that. I'd like to make a request I've made this before, it hasn't happened, not for anyone's fault, but I'd like to get the water superintendent in here or our water commissioners to let us know what's going on with the water situation. Their meetings continuously are scheduled and canceled as they await a response on a grant. They have another one scheduled the end of the month. Hopefully we'll hear something at that point and they'll meet, but I'd still like to figure out what their alternative plan is if they don't get this grant. Let's hope we do, but just in case we don't, let's not stop the bus from moving. And finally, echoing Mr. Chaka, in this time of Thanksgiving, I want to take the time to thank all of our town employees and our volunteer board members, and especially the members of this board that work tirelessly for this community, for the nothing but the passion, really, and love that we feel for our community. And I know it's something that I take very seriously and enjoy every day, and I just want to take the time to thank everyone who helps contribute to make Rockland a better place. So, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
We say goodbye to a couple of fine Rockland residents coming up. Today was Lorraine Delpret, Jerry's wife, who owns a cattle farm down on Summer Street across from Eston School, passed away at age 99 recently. She's the mother of a lot of good Delpret family members, that Wayne and Richie and all those people that have served the town of Rockland over the years. She's going to be missed. She was a hell of a woman. Another one on a good note is Dale Lorenko. Anybody who knows Dale Lorenko up off of Pleasant Street, one of the side streets, he has an auto business down in there, and he's heading for the sunny south. He's not going to be a snowbird. He's going to just ditch the snow altogether and move down to Florida. And anybody who knows Dale, he's done a great job in the town of Rockland serving people with their problems with their automobiles and such. And he's going to be really missed. Good luck, Dale. Of course, the stroll coming up. It'd be nice if everybody's supposed to be relatively nice weather. The fourth floor artists got a big deal going on, along with Pam Murphy's regular stroll. So if it's a nice day, and come on out and join everybody. It's every year seems to be getting bigger and enjoyed by more people, and And it's one of Rockland's celebrations, so come and join us. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Mullen?
Just two quick things. First of all, just to remind folks at home, the next meeting for the Reimagine Rockland Working Group is scheduled for next Wednesday, the 29th, and actually right below us here in the Larry Chaffee meeting room. Like anyone who wants to attend, who has been interested and excited about what they've been hearing and seeing over the past few weeks and months, we really encourage you to attend. We'll be breaking up into our 5 subcommittees and focusing on our infrastructure, focusing on how we market downtown, how we support streetscape improvements, how we support business development, and as Mr. Ryan just mentioned, how we embrace the arts and culture, and like in that sphere of our community as well. So we have a lot of exciting goals, but goals that are really gonna need like everyone's help and work to accomplish. So again, next Wednesday, the 29th, at 6:30 p.m. in the Larry Chaffee meeting room. We look forward to seeing you there. And next, over the past 2 weeks, I've heard there's been some rumblings about the location for the proposed medical marijuana cultivation site, and that area just to me is very near and dear to me off of Pond Street. It's where I grew up, so I pay a lot of attention to that area in general. I always have, but I just want to be very clear that what we talked about was just the initial part of a process that actually may or may not even happen. This is not a done deal by any means. Actually, in order for it to move forward at all, the state has to approve it. And as Mr. Chalker, I believe, mentioned earlier, we haven't heard anything back from the state on the medical marijuana dispensaries and the cultivation plans we've approved so far. So there is a process there. The land has some history, as folks know, but I believe based on everything we've heard, especially in the past year or two, that a spot like that would really be the least impactful type of industry or anything that we could have back there. Like it wouldn't be housing, it wouldn't be 40B housing, it would be something that would be there, not interfere with anything, but also help produce some revenues for the town. So we have a little bit of growth every year when we have this conversation about the tax rate. So this board will keep an eye on things, I'm sure, but again, nothing's even really in the works right now. Where we are is very early on in a long, convoluted, if you will, process, which leads me to another thing. I reached out to Mr. Chalker earlier today, and I'm always enlightened when I talk to Mr. Chalker, but one of my questions I actually attended a seminar last week on the implementation of the new recreational marijuana law and how that interfaces with the existing medical marijuana law. And there's a lot of implications for zoning in other areas that because there are projects in the queue that this board has either supported or conveyed a letter of non-opposition to, there may be things to address in terms of recreational marijuana taking effect and just recreational marijuana in general. And I was actually really encouraged to hear that Mr. Chuck and Mr. Kimball were already on top of the issue and really looking at this in a a very thoughtful manner. And so I just want to, again, we talk about this all the time, that there are many things that, even though they may not come up every other Tuesday night while we're here, there's a ton of work, there's a ton of thought, and there's a ton of deliberation that does happen on a very regular and daily basis that we take seriously. So with that, Deirdre, you summed it up perfectly in terms of what we're all thankful for. So I will be quiet and wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. With regards to recreational marijuana, we've been in touch with the town attorney, and we're trying to do is schedule something once we get a little bit more formal ideas from what the state is going to actually do, so we can have the attorney make a presentation to all of the board. In the meantime, we're trying to make sure that we're doing our due diligence with understanding what implications might be and where the law may be actually headed, and even though nothing has been clearly defined yet, because it's a fluid, really, situation with the state with regards to that. And then to comment further about the letters of no opposition to the medical marijuana facilities, those are part of the initial process where the applicant has to get approval from the Department of Public Health, okay? And then from there, then the regulatory process would start with our conservation, our planning, our zoning boards, all those sorts of things. So again, when you talk to people down on that end of Pond Street, because I've ran into a few people as well who are concerned, and I told them the same thing that you had reiterated, that based on the presentation we had seen, based on what could have been a possible use of the land, this seems to make the most sense for to be, we'll say, lower impact to the residents in that area. I would never say that having a facility is never going to impact anyone, but you have to weigh the pros and cons based on what could possibly go in there versus what is currently being proposed for in there. And you look at how it may or may not affect a neighborhood or a town. And then if we talk about recreational marijuana, I just want to quickly point out that the majority of the townspeople voted in the affirmative for legalizing recreational marijuana. So, as local politicians, we have to make sure that we listen to what the voters say, and the voters, they voted for it. So we have...
One thing is, excuse me, as long as we're talking in general terms here, Mr. Chalker and I went over to Brockton to visit a medical marijuana facility, and the thing that impressed me the most is the security that they have at these places. It's not, A, they don't advertise out front, B, the traffic was pretty discreet. The whole thing was organized and well handled with security. Nobody's breaking into the places. Nobody's going to be trespassing, hanging around the places. And that particular one behind Home Depot that they discussed leaves quite a bit of woods for a buffer zone with no use of any of those paper roads that are in there that are legally on the paper. I mean, if they really wanted to, I suppose somebody could come in there and those streets could all be connected somehow and to a development that would cause traffic in and out of there. The plan that we saw for that area would cordon that whole section off so that there is no interference between the organization, the company, and the neighborhood, if you will. So we do pay an awful lot of attention to that issue, because that's going to be one of the issues that the parents are worried about their children. We're going to have to figure out where they're all going to have to go, if we're going to have them, where they're going to go, blah, 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 blah. But you can rest assured that the people of the town of Rockland's interests will be put first, and these places will be put where the average kid isn't going to see them, I would hope. I don't know what the final outcome is. There's liquor stores in every corner. Is it the same thing or not? That'll be a question that the town and we will have to answer, and baby steps. Let's see where the thing goes. Sorry, Ed.
It's okay.
No, we were talking general terms. I just want people to know that we have visited them, and security is the number one concern when it's talked about. When they come in here to talk to Alan, That's one of the things they say. You know, there's always a lot of the guys have a old police captain, police lieutenant, some division of police enforcement that realize that it's not the big deal that everyone thinks it is, and that they're actually for them, and they just want them regulated according to, so the kids will stay out of it, you know?
Well, I think there's a notion out there that some people think it's just a place so they can manufacture and sell marijuana, when in fact, the goods that are produced there actually have beneficial use to patients, as well as they're tested, so it's regulated by the Department of Public Health. And there's things in there that, I mean, if somebody needs this to get through an illness or some sort of treatment for an illness, I mean, it's no different if they were buying a drug, whether it be at Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, or any of the, we'll say, corner drug stores. It's a new concept, it's legal. The state has recognized, medical doctors have recognized that it does have benefits. And again, it's all new to a lot of people, so the best we can do is do our research, and then we go through, and if we find something that happens, we have to make adjustments accordingly. But speaking about security, I know when we first had the initial proposed medical marijuana facility, we sat down, myself, Mr. Chalker, we sat down with Chief of Police John Llewellyn, and we had a very candid discussion with the applicant, with their head of security, and we all at that meeting feeling much better that this was taken seriously, and protocols would be in place, procedures would be in place to not only protect the general public, but the employees of these facilities as well. So, which in fact would also be indirectly any of the neighbors. So nothing's really been taken lightly. When you have a letter of no opposition, that's just the first part of the process, so that the applicant can move on to the next portion and seek an approval. I mean, we've had numerous people come in looking for it based on our location, our proximity to the highway, and where we are. And to date, none of them have actually received their final licensing, although they're all in play. It's no different than, you look around here, we've got, originally we had 3 Tedeschi's. Now we have 3 7-Elevens because they were bought out and sold out. But who are we to say how many are needed in town? How many are owned by the same corporation or franchisee? But again, all we can do is we can put policies and procedures in place to protect the general public, protect the neighbors, and things are legal, so if we can have some sort of indirect benefit from it, whether that's to help with some treatment programs or other things that we've been doing our due diligence and making sure that through host community agreements and things like that, that we can at least have some mitigation, or we can have something, as opposed to just someone coming in blindly and saying, you have to do this, and this is take it or leave it. So we've been very proactive in those regards. And our intention is the same way with the recreational marijuana. We need to get a little bit more information so that we can bring it back to the board, and then have more discussions and hearings prior to us making a determination whether we decide to restrict it to a certain area, whether we decide to not restrict it, whether we decide to ban it or have a moratorium. Those are all questions that are going to be answered in the future, but we still have time to do that, and we still need to make sure we do our homework prior to coming to any conclusion. And I always try to approach everything with an open mind, get the facts, and then come back and make an educated decision. So, and that's what we try to do for the boards, for the rest of the board. I mean, everybody seems to be pursuing different things, whether that's the Imagine Rockland, whether it's going through the stormwater, whether it's making sure that we don't have, let's say, litter, nips, whatever you want to call it. Everyone's passionate about certain things, and we all seem to have a consensus to go through and allow one another to do that, and then bring that information back to the board, inform the board, and then make a decision as a board with the information. And that's all we can ask, and that's all we try to do. But again, to your point, Mike, we have been on top of it, and we are trying to make sure that we have the information to present to this board, and then obviously that'll be utilized with other boards under the guidance of town council. So we are looking that way. I've said enough tonight with regards to the holiday stroll. Hopefully we see a lot of people out there on Saturday night. As people have said, the weather's going to be, looks like it's going to be mild and cooperate, so it's a nice night to get out and see things. And with regards to Thanksgiving week, I just remind people that Town Hall is closed Thursday and Friday for the holiday. School is also closed, and it does get darker now earlier, so please watch out. With the mild weather, that puts kids outside, and please, drive safely and watch out for kids. With that, I'd like to extend everyone to have a happy, healthy, and safe Thanksgiving, and we'll see you either at the stroll or after the holiday. Thank you very much.
They're at the football game. Vote
Make
to
a motion.
approve. Adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for joining us tonight.